In this video, I'm ranking the best and the worst legends for this upcoming rank split on World's Edge. Now, despite there not being too many changes to legends recently, there is still a pretty big shakeup regarding the meta on World's Edge. And before I start off with D tier, you must know a few things. First, all legends are treated equally once they're placed in their respective tier. But just because I start with somebody in B tier doesn't mean I think they're the best out of B tier. Second, legends are ranked off of how they're played and their overall kit. And number 3, this is an opinion piece. So when I put my man Mirage in D tier, try not to get too pressed at me. Oh yeah, so Mirage is going to be the first legend in D tier. Sorry to all you Mirage mains out there. But this legend just does not perform well in a competitive environment like ranked. Mirage is and has always been more of a pub legend, or if he's played in ranked at all, it's in the lower elos. That's for good reason. His kit becomes very readable among higher elo players, and even if it's not, the utility that a Mirage can offer is very limited in a lot of these competitive ranked scenarios, such as a crazy endgame circle or some treacherous rotation across the map. Second in D tier is going to be Lifeline. Now I know she just got buffed, but frankly it's just not enough to make her viable in the ranked mode. Could you argue that she belongs in C tier? Sure, but it really doesn't move the mark because there's way better options in the support role that I will list throughout the video. For what it's worth though, I think they need to revamp her ultimate and or find a new way to address her passive. The revive isn't bad, not by any means, but it's not what it used to be. So anytime a legend that was great and they get nerfed, it's rare to see them rise back to the top unless they get completely reworked. Lifeline's in an odd spot right now, and it'll probably stay there for a while. So now let's talk about C tier. Now, to be real with you guys, C and D tier are pretty similar because I feel like all of these legends are just not going to provide the value that you and your team need as you attempt to climb the ranks. Starting off is Watson, and I know Watson mains are usually great players and teammates, but here's my biggest issue with her. When they reworked her back in Season 11, her fences are still bugged. They also are really clunky now too. You could place one node down and look to connect it, and it places a separate node that for some reason doesn't connect with each other, therefore wasting precious time if you're in a fight or about to engage with an enemy. You can't have a legend that just doesn't work consistently with their abilities and expect to see long-term success with them. Beyond the bugs though, she's a pretty good legend. It's just that the game has changed a lot and it feels like there's a lot more outplay ability when it comes to a Watson team bunkered down. I think her gen needs to be harder to destroy, but maybe have a bit longer of a cooldown. Something like that could go a long way to making her a better option in the near future. Now, speaking of bugs, I have to put Loba in C tier as well. This whole thing around her bracelet not working, once again, ultimately kills this legend's utility. I mean, you just can't be using a legend in ranked if her tactical won't be consistently working. You'll end up dying in a situation where you're banking on it working. Her ultimate is fine, but I just don't see it being good enough to be the sole reason you're exclusively playing this legend. And despite there being no official word from Apex or Respawn on Loba's issue, which is just wild to me, the dev who does work on bugs has said on Twitter that they're looking into it, but this was weeks ago, and I would imagine at this point it's not going to get fixed until next season. Sorry to all you Loba mains out there. The last legend going into C tier is Revenant. This big robot is not what he used to be. Using Revenant in ranked requires tons of coordination with your teammates, and his ultimate is only viable in certain niche moments due to the nerfs it's received over the seasons. I do think that if you play Revenant and your two teammates are used to that playstyle and you're good with him, it's possible to make him work on World's Edge, but by and far, he's not a great pick this split. I am eager to see what the devs do with Revenant, as it's clear he has severely fallen off. Before I move on to B tier, I want to thank today's video sponsor, SizzleGG. This is a website where you can download free, automatic, action-packed highlights of your previous Twitch or YouTube streams. No software is needed. SizzleGG saves you time and money automatically by picking the best parts of your stream and turning them into clips or compilations for games such as Apex Legends, Fortnite, Call of Duty Warzone, League of Legends, Rainbow Six Siege, and FIFA 2022, with many more games being added soon. You can also upload your clips and compilations directly from Sizzle's website to Twitter and TikTok with only a few clicks. They've also added new filtering options where you can search and sort by game and also specific moments within that game. Check out the link in the description below, and thanks again to SizzleGG for sponsoring this video. Alright, now we're getting into the decent legends, B tier. Starting off is going to be Bangalore. I couldn't really come up with any good reasons to be using this legend in ranked, especially if I was going to climb up into the more sweaty tiers. But Bangalore is just a middle of the road pick. She's not too strong and not too weak. However, her abilities don't always translate well to the competitive side of Apex. I think there are much better options out there, so stay tuned. Next in B tier is Fuse. I love Fuse. This damage dealing legend is super fun, but the main reason he's in B tier is his abilities are clunky. You can easily deal damage to yourself, especially because there's collision with friendly teammates. So when you go to shoot your knuckle cluster and your teammate walks in front of you, and now you've just denied area for yourself, or you're taking unnecessary damage in that fight. He does provide some value in chaotic moments, but I've played a lot of Fuse and he's very niche. He certainly can be a pest to go up against though. I do think also teammates need to play around Fuse. He's this unique legend where it's different than having, say, a Bloodhound on your team. You must try to coordinate gunfire with Fuse's damage dealing abilities, because if Fuse is using his abilities to deal damage, he doesn't have the opportunity to shoot his gun, and so teammates need to coordinate a bit with this legend. Third in B tier is Pathfinder. When will they change this legend? It feels like it's been forever since they were discussing a buff to his passive. Now, I honestly think his passive isn't his biggest issue here. It's his hitbox. Pathfinder just takes way too much damage when you compare him to other legends. When they removed his low profile back in Season 8, they also increased his hitbox size, and now he's a walking refrigerator. He's super fun to play and he could be a top pick, but every player ultimately knows he dies way too quick. Fourth in B tier is Octane. Good old Octane players love to make some of the dumbest plays possible. Now, Octane is a legend that promotes a lot of bad habits if you're not careful. Things such as stimming way ahead of your teammates, engaging in a fight low on HP because you stimmed 3 times to get there, and jump padding full force into teams at the worst possible times. If you can eliminate this type of stuff from your gameplay as Octane, well, he could be as high as A tier. However, I feel like few players actually use him in the best ways possible, and therefore most of the players using Octane should probably be playing someone else. Wrapping up B tier is going to be Rampart. She is good but not great. Well, I think she could be A tier for some players if I'm being honest, but it's important that teammates know how to conform to the Rampart playstyle. It's a more patient style, and it's about holding angles and then waiting for enemies to get naive and challenge her amped cover. It's not to say you have to camp with this legend, but it is much slower. It's hard to ever imagine Rampart being like a staple pick in Apex, but I think that's just because of how she works. However, there's no doubt her ultimate is insanely good, and the devs have done a great job turning her from a D tier legend to an upper echelon legend. Alright, now we're starting off with A tier, and some of you guys are going to think I'm crazy putting Mad Maggie as the first legend, but I think you guys are going to be surprised this split. Maggie is rising to the top. Now, her ultimate is definitely lackluster, but it's not completely useless, and unfortunately this one is also bugged, as the stunning effect it used to have doesn't work the same as last season, and once again, no word from Respawn on this. However, I think Maggie is really good for her passive and her riot drill tactical. She is definitely aggressive running gun legend, but she is a huge counter to legends like Gibby, Newcastle, and Rampart. So look out for more Maggies running around World's Edge this split, and also in the LTS. More will be revealed with her. Second in A tier is going to be Horizon, and some of you may say Horizon is S tier, and I wouldn't necessarily argue with you. Her Q is really valuable for her entire team, and that passive just feels so good to use. Not to mention her ultimate can be a huge game changer for a fight if used correctly with damage dealing ordinances. However, the main reason I'm putting her in A tier instead of S tier is because I think she fits better on Stormpoint due to all of the different high and low ground that map has. It's not to say we won't see more Horizons this split, because I think it will take some time for players to realize there's some better options to be using on your team. Third in A tier is Ash. Now, she could also be another potential S tier pick if used by the right team and player. Her portal is by far the best part about her kit, a very quick repositioning tool and or an offensive tactic to approach enemy teams. I do love a good Ashe on my team, I have to say, but her passive is also something really to consider utilizing this split. Having a rough idea of where teams are fighting on the map is so valuable. This can help you avoid fights if you wish, or prepare to execute a quick third party on 2 teams fighting. The last pick I have in A tier is Crypto, and I'm putting Crypto in A tier only if you are not solo queuing with him. He is not a great legend to solo queue with due to the immense amount of calculation and coordination that is required for his EMP pushes and the general use of his drone. You need a lot of voice communication with this legend, and that often doesn't occur while players solo queue. But I do truly think a coordinated Crypto team is still very annoying to deal with, and with World's Edge being a bit smaller than Stormpoint, the use of checking banners with his drone to find out how many teams in the area is vital information. Alright, you made it. Best of the best, S tier. If you're still watching, thank you for doing so. Starting off with Gibby. Now, nothing has changed too much around Gibby being a meta pick, except with the addition of some more legends who can fill this role. Gibby is not always going to be the most fun legend to play, as he consistently has a lower pick rate. However, that can be misleading. His abilities are top notch for competitive scenarios in Apex. If you learn to master the bubble, you'll be a huge asset for your ranked team on World's Edge, or really any map. Second is, no surprise, Valkyrie, the golden child for Apex. This legend is just literally insane, and I can't believe they haven't really nerfed her at all since she came out. I know there's been some slight changes, but they haven't moved the mark at all. Regardless, just about every team relies on Valkyrie's ultimate these days to navigate the team throughout the map. This will create a lot of bailout situations and will allow teams to rotate late or early depending on what they want to do or have to do. That's just her ultimate though. Her tactical and passive are both insanely strong and viable in just about every situation you'll find yourself in during your games in Apex. I really don't see a reason to not have a Valkyrie on your team this split. Now my third pick may surprise you, Newcastle. This legend is really strong, and I know when he first released his pick rate was fairly high, but now it has seemed to have fallen off quite a lot. I think he will be sort of similar to other legends like Seer or Valkyrie, and what I mean by that is over time, players will start to realize how good he actually is, and then he will turn into a staple pick in the higher elos. I mean, the res shield is really strong for resetting fights, on top of his tactical and ultimate being great options for helping in late game spaces or just creating some cover on the fly. His abilities can also be comboed together with one another, and that always makes for a huge advantage at times. Next in S tier is Seer. I put Seer in S tier in my first tier list of the season, and I got a good amount of pushback. But as we can see, a ton of high-level ranked players and pros are utilizing this legend because they have realized he's even more powerful than Bloodhound in a lot of ways. Simply put, Seer requires minimal game sense and gives out tons of free information through his passive, ultimate, and tactical. Constant wall hacks will always be OP in any shooter game. Fifth in S tier is Bloodhound. Now this legend is close to Seer in terms of their utility, but I don't really know if Seer or Bloodhound is better because I think it really is going to come down to the player and the playstyle of the team. Sure, Seer allows for more information because 3 of his abilities center around giving that away. Bloodhound is a bit more quicker and faster with the information being relayed. You may catch a full team on a scan, whereas if you try to scan someone with Seer's tactical, you may only hit 1 or maybe 2 of the enemies. I think both picks are honestly great options when you're going for a recon pick on your team. Alright, next in S tier is one of my favorite picks this season, Caustic. The Gas Daddy has always performed the best on World's Edge. We see this in just about every rank split on this map, and we see it frequently within pro play like ALGS. I think a big reason for this is World's Edge has a good amount of buildings, and not only that, they are designed in a specific way that really benefits a Caustic with good trap placement. Places like zipline buildings in Fragment, Lava City, and Skyhook are amazing spots for a Caustic to bunker down if need be. I strongly recommend having a Caustic on your team this split, especially if you're running into some trouble. Caustic is great at tilting fights in your favor. Last but not least in S tier is Wraith. I'm sure some of you will say Ashe or Horizon deserve to be S tier over Wraith, and while you might be right, it really is going to come down to the player, as I said. Wraith is still a really good pick in ranked, and particularly for World's Edge. Wraith is also really good at navigating teams in and out of trouble. Her portal is a great tool for micro rotations and or quick repositions. A good Wraith can go a long way in ranked. Okay, so now you know who to play this rank split, but if you're interested in one simple tip for every legend in Apex, I suggest you check out this video next. Thanks for watching. Peace.